Hi, my name is Mo Loden and I'm Alpine Watershed Group's Watershed Program Manager. Today I'm going to talk to you about harmful algal blooms and their impacts on recreation. So to start, I'll cover a few details about Alpine Watershed Group's background. Alpine Watershed Group is a nonprofit community organization dedicated to preserving and enhancing the natural system functions of Alpine County's watersheds for future generations. We do this through collaboration, education, and proactively implementing stewardship projects. For 20 years, we've been working to create opportunities for Alpine County residents and visitors to participate in meaningful environmental stewardship programs. Supported by our small staff, volunteers play a critical role in our programs. We support Alpine County watershed health through water quality monitoring, restoration projects, and environmental education programs. AWG's longest running program is the River Monitoring Program and is citizen science based and has continuously collected data at 8 sites in the Upper Carson River watershed since 2004. Pictured here are 2 of our longest standing river monitors who have been with the program for over 17 years. We also recently started providing harmful algal bloom monitoring and pharmaceutical and personal care product monitoring. In 2021, we hope to host our 21st annual Creek Day Workday. This is a large event where volunteers can choose hands-on restoration projects at sites throughout the community. This past summer, we completed our first major restoration project, the Hope Valley Restoration and Aquatic Habitat Enhancement Project. I'll be providing more information on this project at next week's Watershed Wednesday Forum. Through both our monitoring and restoration events, we educate adults and children by discussing watershed issues. We also promote watershed awareness by hosting bi-monthly meetings, and we also provide monthly newsletters. So, what are harmful algal blooms, aka HABs? HABs occur when cyanobacteria multiply at an excessive rate. What is cyanobacteria? Cyanobacteria are microscopic organisms that you cannot see with your eyes, but when they overpopulate, they form visible colonies referred to as blooms. Cyano means blue, and even though cyanobacteria has formerly been referred to as blue-green algae, their cell makeup is more closely related to a prokaryotic bacteria. Cyanobacteria are naturally present in water bodies and are an integral part of our ecosystems. They can live in freshwater or saltwater. They can live in extremely high temperature ecosystems or low temperatures. And due to their highly functioning photosynthesis processes and extreme adaptability, these little guys have survived for over 3.5 billion years. Cyanobacteria is actually very important to the evolution of Earth's now oxygen-rich atmosphere. So I think it's important to note that not all cyanobacteria are bad. They've been around for a very long time, as we just learned, and they've made great contributions. Cyanobacteria take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and they produce oxygen. They also can fix nitrogen and make it available for consumption by other organisms. Most organisms cannot obtain nitrogen from the atmosphere. They are also an excellent food source for several aquatic animals. Unfortunately, during my presentation today, I won't be focusing on the positive side of cyanobacteria, but instead, I'm going to talk about what cyanobacteria is capable of when provided the right conditions. So cyanobacteria can cause blooms that decrease water quality. They block sunlight at the surface, and they can also decrease dissolved oxygen. When blooms die off, other bacteria come in and start breaking down the harmful algal blooms, and when the other bacteria is breaking these blooms down, they will consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide, which may cause fish to suffer or die. Cyanobacteria can also produce cyanotoxins that can cause illness or be fatal. So what causes HABs? We don't know the exact formula that causes harmful algal blooms, but we know many of the factors that contribute to harmful algal blooms. How these factors come together to create a bloom is not actually well understood, but what we do understand are stable water columns that provide slow and stagnant water, more warm air and warm temperatures, plentiful rich nutrient waters, and long days with plenty of sunlight can all contribute to a harmful algal bloom. How do harmful algal blooms impact recreation? Harmful algal blooms can cause an immediate impact to recreation when the bloom starts to display common bloom appearances such as dark green water, scummy looking water, sometimes it'll look like spilled paint. There's numerous different visual appearances that harmful algal blooms can take on, but they normally will take a beautiful looking water body and transform it to a not so beautiful looking water body. I would say most recreationists, when they are going out to canoe, camp, hike, bike, fish, whatever they may be doing, no one's looking to go recreate near a water body that's not displaying healthy looking conditions. So harmful algal blooms do impact recreation immediately by decreasing aesthetics and causing recreationists to choose to go to other places. Harmful algal blooms also, when they're emitting toxins, create risk to humans, dogs, and wildlife. If these toxins are persistent for long enough, lakes could be at risk of being closed until the lake can be, basically tested and measured to know that it's safe again to recreate at. So harmful algal blooms cause many impacts to recreation, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how the different risks they cause to humans, dogs, and wildlife through toxins. So as we just touched on briefly, harmful algal blooms decrease the aesthetics of a reservoir. The photo here on the left is Red Lake Reservoir not experiencing a harmful algal bloom, and the photo on the right is experiencing a harmful algal bloom. The photo on the left, I think, inspires recreationists to come out and enjoy Red Lake for whatever they may be into, for canoeing or fishing or hiking. But the photo on the right is not so inviting. As someone who spent many monitoring events paddling my raft out to the middle of this reservoir to collect samples, I was very reluctant to get into that water, even in a raft. I feared how the water would affect the condition of my raft after I rolled it up, or if I were to accidentally come in contact with the water while paddling out there. So I can imagine a recreationist that were to come to a location like this would also be deterred to go somewhere else to do whatever their hobbies required. So unfortunately, not everyone has the same baseline for clean water as I do, and I've been fairly surprised to see lots of folks out here still fishing or canoeing, and even swimming once. And so a lot of the times my Red Lake monitoring also is coincided with education outreach, explaining to folks the risks that they're taking while recreating near a water body like this. I'll first talk about the human health risk associated with HABs and the ways to be exposed. A lake user may go swimming in a reservoir and not know that there's a harmful algal bloom occurring at that water body at that time. If that were the case, they may have skin contact, or they would most certainly have skin contact if they swim in contaminated water, but they may also ingest water if they were swimming and somehow swallowed some water. A third way to be exposed is if it were an extremely windy day or there were watercraft such as jet skis nearby, small water droplets may travel in mist or spray and can be inhaled while breathing. Cyanotoxins may also accumulate in fish and shellfish, and if the toxin levels in a water body measure between the State Water Board's established caution trigger level up to the danger trigger level, so through the warning level for microcystins, then it's recommended to throw away the guts and clean fillets before cooking fish from a HAB impacted water body. This is also in line with the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment's general recommendations for any recreational fish consumption. If cyanotoxin levels fall at or above the danger trigger level, it's recommended to not eat any fish or shellfish from this water body. Children are considered more susceptible to effects of cyanotoxins than adults due to their small size. In some rare cases, toxin levels may be concentrated enough to cause rashes, diarrhea, vomiting, or some of these other symptoms. Illnesses and symptoms from harmful algal blooms can vary depending on how long the exposures last and the types of toxins involved. Exposures to harmful algal blooms can also cause harm to your liver or kidneys. Not only are humans at risk to being exposed to harmful algal blooms, but maybe even more so are dogs. It doesn't take a lot of cyanotoxins to affect a small pet, which may be a major factor when deciding where to go recreate. If you're like me, then 99% of my recreation on the weekends also has to coincide with when and where and how my dog can come tag along. So as you can see here, my sweet pup is thrashing around a lake, and this is actually one of the reasons dogs are so much more vulnerable to harmful algal blooms, is because their tendency to play in the water, where it's very likely they would ingest water from a harmful algal bloom. Dogs are also, they usually have much lower standards for clean drinking water. They wouldn't think twice about walking up to a water body like this, or much dirtier, and drinking the water. Dogs might even be drawn to harmful algal blooms if they have a certain smell. And the third way a dog would be likely exposed to a harmful algal bloom is if they were to lick their paws or fur after swimming in contaminated water. So animals can experience symptoms within minutes to days following exposure. Symptoms they may experience are vomiting, diarrhea, weaknesses, difficult breathing, seizures, or potentially in some cases death. If you suspect your pet has been in contact with a harmful algal bloom, please rinse with fresh water and seek veterinarian help immediately. For the last few years, I've been doing a lot of education and outreach on the harmful algal bloom monitoring program that I conduct at Red Lake. And I feel like I rarely find the right opportunity to talk about how beautiful and wonderful Red Lake actually is as well, outside of harmful algal bloom monitoring. So I'm going to do a little bit of that here in this slide. As you can see from this photo, early in my HAB monitoring season, I get amazing scenic views like these. But unfortunately, HABs do cause major impact on fish and wildlife, which can be devastating to the environment and would decrease recreation, as fishermen and naturalists would be deterred, and they may go to other places where the healthy ecosystems would actually support their hobbies. I think this goes without saying that fish obviously have direct contact with cyanobacteria and the associated toxins in the water, but fish may also ingest cyanotoxins through their diet. Fish may become sick or die from exposure to cyanotoxins, although I will say I've not actually made personal observations like that at Red Lake. Fish may also be impacted from low dissolved oxygen when blooms die off and other bacteria use the oxygen. They break down the decaying algal matter, and then carbon dioxide is released and could create intolerable conditions for fish. As we discussed earlier, HABs have created limitations when it comes to fishing, specifically consuming fish. And so wildlife only have these natural water resources to drink from, so they could be exposed more often. With all that said, I'm now going to show you a few photos of the beautiful wildlife I've spotted at Red Lake and its surroundings. This here is a beaver dam. There are numerous beaver dams at the inlet and outlet of Red Lake. This is a robust beaver dam at the outlet of Red Lake on Red Lake Creek. And the setting is, clearly it's beautiful, and it's creating so much extra wildlife or extra habitat for other wildlife with the beaver dam there. So we're really pleased to see that. Another monitoring event, I spotted these guys spying on me. It was pretty fun. And then finally, on this monitoring day, I observed hundreds of tui chub huddled in the eddies in the Red Lake Creek just below the dam. So although Red Lake has its issues with harmful algal blooms, it's still supporting a diverse habitat for lots of different species. It's unfortunate that the harmful algal blooms are impacting Red Lake like they are, and it would just be such improvement if we could really start to remediate or manage these harmful algal blooms so that recreation could continue at Red Lake year round during the summertime. Although, like I said, folks do tend to still go here, it's not in the same numbers, and it's certainly not the same experience as folks that get to come to Red Lake in the beginning of the monitoring season. What to do if you think you've observed a HAB. If you've seen signs of a HAB, do not enter the water body, do not allow your pet to enter the water body, and do not let your pet drink the water. If it looks funny, if it smells funny, when in doubt, stay out. If the harmful algal bloom is in California, I highly recommend that you log onto the California State Water Board harmful algal bloom portal to report a bloom. If you can take photos of the bloom and provide photos, that'll help any staff follow-up that they may need to provide. There are other ways to report a bloom besides the harmful algal bloom portal on the State Water Board page. You can also report the bloom via the State Water Board hotline here. And if there are any suspected illnesses in dogs or people, please also inform the Alpine County Public Health Officer. If you're in Nevada, you could call whichever one of these numbers is most relevant to your suspected HAB incident. Thank you for listening today. That concludes my presentation. I would like to thank our project partners for the harmful algal bloom monitoring program, Alpine County Public Health Officer, the California State Water Board, and the Loden Region Water Quality Control Board, and South Tahoe Public Utility District. So I look forward to hearing any questions you have in the Q&A. Okay, thank you.